We woke up hearing footsteps come down the hall. Someone walked down the hall and stopped outside our door. There's no one there. No one in the kitchen, no one in the basement, and the door is still locked.
I loved being scared. I loved that fear, the danger, the unknown. She asked me if I had ever seen a ghost. I used to wish I could see one now. I don't know.
Everybody just kind of laughed and wrote it off, and nobody wanted to sleep in this spare room there anymore. I'm still a skeptic myself, like I said. Even if you told me, I don't know that I'd believe you. If I watch myself and listen to myself, I'm not sure I believe myself.
What happens when death becomes personal? We hear about dying, we see it in the movies, but for many, death isn't real until we lose somebody we love. And then the questions start. Is there life after death? Have our loved ones gone on to a better place? Hi, I'm Lawrence Chow. Welcome to Ghostly Encounters. Today, we'll talk about the comfort we get from feeling like those questions have been answered. And we'll meet two women who say that comfort for them came from beyond the grave. When we're grieving, we just want to know that the person we lost is okay. And once in a while, we find someone who feels they've been granted that very wish. Someone like Pauline Leach.
I lived in Toronto for years, then I moved up to Albin, and I lived in Albin for about 5 years, I guess. And Annie and Poppy, Helen and Wilf, lived next door to us. Helen had been bedridden for a couple of years there. She was very sick. She died in '99. I guess the fall of 2000, we moved down to Newmarket. And Wilf moved to Albin, which is a small town just outside of Trout Lake. We'd go back and use the house as a cottage after that time. So we were back up there in 2001, I guess in the spring, and Merv and I were up with the dog, Lou. Got in Friday night, probably around 11, 12 o'clock, because it's so far from Toronto. Woke up the next morning, around 6 or 7, hearing someone in the house. We heard the side door open and someone walk down the hall and stand outside the bedroom. So we jump out of bed. I says, Merv, you better get dressed, someone's out there. So he jumps up, throws his pants on, goes outside, and there's nobody in the hall. He walks down the hall, looks down the stairs, checks the whole house, and there was no one in the kitchen and there was no one in the basement. There was nothing except the sounds. It was just distinct footsteps down the hall, and they stopped right outside the bedroom door. And it was hardwood floor, so you could hear the steps nice and clear. So we thought, well, it must have been the dog. But Lou was sleeping in her normal spot in the kitchen. She had a blanket and a nice little bed there. So she hadn't moved. She just looks up at us like we're nuts. You know, you hear a sound in the house, a crash, and you think, what was it? And later on, you might remember it was something in the freezer that fell. You can tell by that sound. So we wrote it off to being something we just couldn't identify for now, but there'd be a logical explanation for it, we thought. We were back up in June, and we didn't have Lou with us this time. And again, 6 or 7 in the morning, we woke up, and we heard someone come in the side door, walk down the hall, and stand outside the bedroom. So Merv looks at me and says, did you hear that? I said, yeah. We figured it must be Poppy. He had his own key, he would sometimes come in to visit. He didn't know we were coming up, but maybe he saw the car late at night, I don't know. So Merv jumps out, walks down the hall, and again, there's no one there. No one in the kitchen, no one in the basement, and the door is still locked. Why does a ghost need to open a door? I think they can walk through, but we did hear a door the second time. And then the walking down the hall. but there was no dog with us. So we never told anybody about these stories. We just wrote it off to being coincidence, something. We couldn't identify what it was, but there has to be a logical reason. You just don't hear footsteps when no one's there. We were back up in October that year. So Merv and my youngest son, Grant, are out hunting, and Craig, my second youngest, is in the house with me, and we're preparing dinner and setting the table and getting everything ready for Thanksgiving dinner. And finally, when everything was ready, Craig and I went downstairs to the bar to make ourselves a drink. The rec room is right underneath the kitchen. So we pour ourselves a drink. We hadn't had any yet, and we heard a sound upstairs. The sound was the chair being pulled out from the table. So I said to Craig, "Did you hear that?" And Craig says, "Yeah." I said, "Well, what was it?" Craig says, "Well, someone moved a chair upstairs." And I said, "Well, Craig, who's in the house?" Craig didn't know about these other stories either. So Craig says, "Well, someone obviously came in when we came downstairs." So I said, "Do you want to go and check and let me know who's up there?" So Craig goes upstairs, and of course no one's there. I didn't hear anybody come in the house. I would have heard the side door open, so I knew there was no one there, but I wanted him to check it out just to make sure. So I said, "Well, Craig, you're not going to believe this." And then I went and told him the story about the other 2 times. So we go out to the garage to find Merv and Grant. They're back from hunting, and they're out in the garage. And we want to go for a walk in the bush to pick some leaves up for decorations for the fall table. Grant's going to go in the house and have a shower. Turned the shower off and was getting dried off, and he heard someone, the same thing that we had heard. Someone walk down the hall and stand outside the bathroom door. So we get back from our leaf collection, and Grant comes back outside. He says, "Well, who was just in the house?" I said, "Well, nobody was in the house." "Yeah," he says, "somebody walked down the hall and stood outside the bathroom door." And he says, "I called, no one answered." He says, "So I waited for a while, then I stuck